With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. A stately welcome this morning at the White House, with President and Mrs. Trump welcoming French President Macron and his wife to America.
Mr. President, Melania and I were honored to visit your majestic country last summer. Now we are thrilled to host you and Brigitte here in America.
Mr. Trump saying the roots of the U.S.-France partnership run deep.
It is truly fitting that we are holding our first official state visit with the leader of America's oldest ally, the proud nation of France.
Later in their closed-door talks, the two leaders will discuss trade as well as the Iran nuclear deal, and then tonight it's a glitzy state dinner at the White House. Former President George H.W. Bush hospitalized in Houston with an infection, this just after attending the funeral of his wife, Barbara. But a Bush family spokesman says the former president is anxious to get well so that he can spend some time at his summer home in Kennebunkport, Maine. Also at SRNnews.com, his motive is not clear. Investigators in Toronto apparently still don't know why a man drove his van onto a busy sidewalk on a major thoroughfare in the Canadian city, mowing down pedestrians. 10 people dead, 15 injured.
We've located that vehicle. The driver's in custody right now, and he's been investigated.
Toronto Police Deputy Chief Peter Ewan says a 25-year-old suspect was captured a few blocks away. Police say the act definitely looked deliberate. On Wall Street this morning, stocks higher, the Dow up about 41 points, the Nasdaq ahead 12, and the S&P is up 5 points. This is SRN News. The president of Turkey discusses a jailed American pastor.
In an interview with the Turkish TV channel NTV, President Erdogan is frank. He wants to trade Pastor Andrew Brunson for a Muslim cleric, Fethullah Gulen, currently living in Pennsylvania. Erdogan says, quote, "The U.S. is behind Gulen. If you want Brunson, why don't you deport this man in accordance with the extradition treaty?" Pastor Brunson is accused of spying, a charge he and the Trump administration deny. Michael Harrington, SRN News.
The Navy has decided that a Bible can be included in the traditional POW MIA display at a military hospital on Okinawa. The presence of the Bible in the missing man display was challenged by the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. Rear Admiral P.D. Harrigan has released a statement saying that as one of 9 symbolic references on the table, the purpose of the book and accompanying description is not to promote religion. This is SRN News. The feds have widened probes of Ford, VW, and Nissan vehicles.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has announced the expansion of 3 investigations for brake and airbag problems that could affect more than 2.3 million vehicles. The automakers being investigated are Ford, Volkswagen, and Nissan. The NTSB is looking at brake pedal issues with Ford Fusion, Mercury Milan, and Lincoln MKZ models covering the years 2006 to 2012. 8 Volkswagen models from 2010 through 2014 are being investigated for airbags that failed to inflate, and brake problems with 2009 model year Nissan Muranos are under review. Mike Gracia, Washington.
United Airlines CEO Oscar Munoz criticized for his initial response to a passenger being dragged off a plane. Says he gave up his 2017 bonus. His compensation, mostly in stock awards, fell to $9.6 million in 2017. More details at srnnews.com.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, April 24th, 2018. Silver is trading at $16.63 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,325 per ounce. Zencash is trading at $36, and the average price of Bitcoin is $9,331. Antiwar.com reports CIA Director Mike Pompeo is on track to become the next Secretary of State after the Senate Foreign Relations Committee voted to approve him 11-9. All Republicans voted in favor, and Senator Chris Coons voted present. Senator Rand Paul was the real deciding vote, having switched sides after opposing Pompeo. Democratic Senator Coons had also initially voted no, but changed to present as a courtesy because Senator Johnny Isakson was not present and voted by proxy. Isakson's vote would have made it 11-10, but only 10-10 among present voters, which would have forced Isakson to drive back from a funeral for a second vote. Paul's change was a surprise to almost everyone. However, Senator Paul cited multiple conversations with President Trump. During the meetings, Trump assured him that he believes the Iraq War was a mistake and that the U.S. must leave Afghanistan, and that Pompeo agrees with him. President Trump has publicly expressed these positions in the past. Despite that, he's done nothing to end either of the wars. In fact, President Trump announced in August that he'd changed his mind on Afghanistan since becoming president. He said this in the process of announcing a substantial escalation of that war. Paul's reversal prevented Pompeo from becoming the first nominee since 1925 to not get the Senate panel's approval. Without Monday's vote, it was also very likely that his nomination would have failed outright, while now it appears certain. Are you an advocate for free market money? Do you promote Bitcoin as an alternative in a fiat-centric world? Then you need Spendabit in your arsenal, the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. Spendabit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Visit spendabit.co today. Bitcoin merchants, ask about our merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.co. UPI reports a former Texas Juvenile Center employee who stole $1.2 million worth of fajitas was sentenced to 50 years in prison for theft by a public servant. Visiting State District Judge Manuel Benales ordered the 50-year sentence for Gilberto Escamilla, who admitted to using taxpayer money to buy fajita meat and sell it for profit while working as a purchaser for Darrell B. Hester Juvenile Detention Center. An audit report revealed Escamilla managed to shave $1,251,578 from food purchases for 9 years undetected. Escamilla was arrested in 2017 after $800 worth of fajitas, which the facility does not serve, were delivered while he was away from work at a doctor's appointment. Escamilla said in his testimony, "It was selfish. It started small and got bigger and out of control. It got to the point where I couldn't control it anymore." Cameron County Assistant District Attorney Peter Gilman asked the judge to issue the lengthy sentence to prevent other public servants from committing similar acts. Gilman said, "We feel a strong message should be sent." For over 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. And as a Bitcoin-preferred business, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports police on Monday arrested the man suspected of fatally shooting 4 people at a Waffle House restaurant, ending a 36-hour manhunt after tips from the public led police to search secluded woods nearby. Photos posted online by Nashville police showed Travis Ranking, a 29-year-old construction worker, in custody. He was suspected of opening fire with an assault rifle at a restaurant early Sunday, then fleeing the scene naked. Photographed in the back of a police car, he looked disheveled and was wearing a torn red shirt and dirty blue jeans. He had scratches on his shoulder. No motive was known for the attack that sent shudders throughout one of the biggest cities in the U.S. South and stoked a simmering national debate on gun control. More than 150 city, state, and local law enforcement agents searched for the gunman, who has had a history of bizarre behavior, delusions, and multiple encounters with authorities, including an episode in Washington in July 2017 when he was arrested for trying to get into the White House, according to police reports. Tips from people in the neighborhood helped lead police to search through the woods about 2 miles from the restaurant using sniffer dogs on the ground and aircraft overhead. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
You're watching the suspect in the deadly Toronto attack expected in court.
This is a great honor.
Macron mounts a rescue mission in Washington for the Iran deal.
Amazon wants to put some junk in your trunk.
This is Reuters Now.
The driver accused of killing 10 people when he mowed down pedestrians in Toronto will make his first court appearance Tuesday, and details about his motive could emerge. Police identified the suspect as 25-year-old Alec Manassian. Acquaintances told Reuters he attended a special needs high school. A former classmate recalled him as, quote, absolutely harmless, walking the halls with his head down and occasionally making meowing noises. Police said he'd had no prior contact with law enforcement, but this quiet former student is alleged to have turned a normal lunch hour into deadly mayhem on Monday, with 15 also injured in the worst mass killing Canada's seen in decades.
Our police services, our intelligence agencies are all working very, very hard, closely coordinating with the folks on the ground. I think all Canadians are with Toronto today.
Shoes and bodies covered with tarps filled the busy street where the attack took place. And while it has the hallmarks of other vehicle attacks by ISIS supporters, officials don't see a connection.
The events that happened on the street behind us are horrendous, but they do not appear to be connected in any way to national security based on the information available at this time.
The incident comes as the group of 7 foreign ministers from U.S., Canada, Britain, and others were meeting in the city's downtown area about 18 miles away.
For Donald Trump, it's a chance to break out the fine china for one of his favorite world leaders. For French President Emmanuel Macron, it's an urgent mission to keep the United States from blowing up the nuclear deal with Iran. I'm Andy Sullivan in Washington, where Trump's rolling out the red carpet as he hosts Macron for his first state visit. On the agenda, a visit to George Washington's estate and a fancy White House dinner. But Macron's not here for sightseeing. He's determined to convince Trump not to pull out of a deal that reins in Iran's ambitions to be a nuclear power. Iran agreed to curb its nuclear program in 2015, and in return, the Obama administration agreed to lift crippling economic sanctions. Also part of the deal, the United Kingdom, Germany, Russia, China, and France.
The Iran deal. I think it's terrible.
But Trump says it has terrible flaws. He's threatening to scrap it altogether in May unless it's dramatically reworked. That's ringing alarm bells across Europe and the Middle East. Iran's foreign minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, says the deal can't be changed. He's urging European leaders to bring Trump back into the fold. Foreign ministers from the Group of 7 issued their own pleas to Trump as they met in Toronto. Macron agrees that the deal isn't perfect, but he says there's no plan B to halt Tehran's nuclear ambitions.
Trump has never been afraid to go his own way, so all this foreign pressure might not change his mind. But most people are placing their bets on Macron. He's a former investment banker who's developed a close personal bond with Trump over the past year. We'll see over the coming days whether that'll be enough to change Trump's mind when it comes to the Iran deal.
Facebook on Tuesday for the first time shared an 8,000-word rulebook for how it polices and censors content on the platform. The community guidelines give far more detail than ever before on what is permitted on subjects ranging from drug use and sex work to hate speech and bullying.
There is certain content that clearly we do not allow, right? Hate speech, terrorist content, nudity, anything that makes people feel unsafe in the community.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg earlier this month faced pressure over exactly how the social media site decides what sort of content crosses the line. For years, it made only a brief version of its community standards publicly available. It used the far longer internal document to decide when individual posts should be removed. A Facebook executive told reporters the company is providing the longer document to clear up confusion and be more transparent. Things marked for removal include images linked to cannibalism. The guidelines say content where a user, quote, admits to personal use of non-medical drugs should not be posted. It also bars cursing at a minor. More seriously, the site has faced criticism from governments and rights groups in many countries for failing to stem hate speech. In March, the United Nations said messages on the site played a role in spreading anti-Muslim rhetoric in Myanmar, fueling violence in what has been described as ethnic cleansing.
And I'm afraid that Facebook has now turned into a beast than what it was originally intended to be used, maybe in other parts of the world too.
Facebook uses automated software and an army of 7,500 moderators to review and take down content that violate rules. The new policies also allow people to appeal a decision to take down content. The company says the standards are constantly evolving.
Director Pompeo.
President Trump's pick to be the next U.S. Secretary of State, CIA Director Mike Pompeo, approved by a Senate panel on Monday after a last-minute change of heart from Senator Rand Paul.
Mr. Paul? Aye.
The Republican from Kentucky, along with all 10 Democrats on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, had voiced opposition to Pompeo's confirmation, but just as the committee gathered to vote, Paul changed his position, saying in a tweet, quote, "Having received assurances from Trump and Pompeo, I've decided to support his nomination." Last week, Trump expressed confidence that Paul would come around.
He's never let me down. Rand Paul is a very special guy as far as I'm concerned. He's never let me down. And I don't think he'll let us down again.
Paul's switch means Pompeo avoids being the first person in 90 years to be nominated for the post and not secure the panel's endorsement. Paul's vote was enough for a party line approval of 11-10. Pompeo is expected to be confirmed by the full Senate as soon as this week.
Months after Brazil's President Michel Temer deployed 30,000 troops to Rio de Janeiro to control soaring crime and violence, the city's drug gangs are still as powerful as ever. In a rare visit, Reuters reporter Brad Brooks spent 3 days and nights with Rio's two most influential drug gangs, who say the recent military intervention is just a temporary inconvenience.
What leaders of both the Red Command and the Pure Third Command told me is that they simply put on a little show for the army, in their words. They put away their assault rifles. They operate in a slightly more low-key manner, and they just go about their business, which is selling drugs. And they do not slow down.
The two main gangs hail from and are the de facto rulers of many of Rio's roughly 1,000 favelas. They not only control the drug trade, but they have enough power to order businesses and schools to shut down at their will.
What we saw were just very typical scenes of a gang-dominated slum. And that is young teenage up to early 20s foot soldiers carrying AR-15 style rifles. Everyone affiliated with the gang has a Glock 9mm strapped to their waist, while Rio de Janeiro's police force is still using old, outdated, and at times defective equipment.
Now, even with the military in charge for 10 more months, not many are hopeful that Rio's cycle of violence can be broken.
Survivors of a horrific tour bus accident in North Korea got a rare visit from none other than Kim Jong-un on Monday. 36 people were killed on Sunday when a bus crashed off a bridge. Most were Chinese tourists. North Korean state media reported Kim's visit on Tuesday, saying Kim visited the hospital as well as the Chinese embassy in Pyongyang to express his deep sympathy. The image of a leader paying condolences after a tragedy is common in the West, but it's a rare sight in isolated North Korea. Analysts say Kim has undergone a media makeover in recent months, beginning with a New Year speech signaling his willingness to take part in the Olympics. It's a softer image for the North Korean leader ahead of planned talks with South Korea and the United States. The crash site was in North Hwanghae province on the border with South Korea. It's home to Kaesong, an ancient Korean capital often thronged with tourists from overseas. Chinese make up around 80% of foreign visitors to North Korea, and tourism is a major source of revenue for the isolated country.
Just inside your door.
When Amazon launched Amazon Key last fall, delivering packages inside your very home, some said the e-commerce giant was maybe going too far. Undeterred, the company looked for a happy medium. Some were secure, but not too personal, where you might keep your junk. The trunk.
I needed a few birthday presents for my daughter and thought this would be the perfect use because she won't find them and the packages won't get stolen from my doorstep.
On Tuesday, the company launched the service for Prime members in 37 cities. Reuters correspondent Stephen Nellis.
This is part of a long-running effort by Amazon to have customers get their packages delivered anywhere they want so that they can feel like they're safe from being swiped off the porch. Now, Amazon doesn't like to talk about it, but we all know that package theft happens fairly regularly in some areas. So the company has had lockers in urban settings like San Francisco and Seattle since 2011 where you can get your stuff delivered. Last fall, they debuted what was called Amazon Key, where you could have an internet-connected door lock and camera system where the Amazon delivery person could actually slip the goods inside your front door. Now, that's not for everybody. Some people might have concerns about letting anybody they don't know inside their house. The car gives Amazon a nice intermediate option. And the really good thing for Amazon is that in terms of reach, this is pretty good because millions of people have cars that can work with this system, and it doesn't cost anything if you're a Prime member. You just download an app and set it up.
The service works with compatible cars by GM and Volvo. It taps the car's built-in unlock feature. An Amazon executive said the company cannot see or track the customer's car. Shoppers also get mobile reminders before, during, and after delivery.
Search engine giant Google's parent Alphabet reporting a 73% jump in profit in the first 3 months this year, thanks to soaring internet ad sales. The latest quarter's profit of $9.4 billion, which largely exceeded estimates, were also thanks to a new accounting method that counts investments in startups, such as Uber. Reuters reporter Paresh Dave.
Previously, they would wait till those shares in those companies are marketable, meaning that they can trade them, after an IPO or an acquisition. Now Alphabet is recording the income from those investments at sort of their current value. Alphabet has warned investors with a big emphasis that there is going to be increased volatility in their earnings. As these startups go up and down and they change what they think the fair value estimate of those investments are.
Google is the first among major internet advertising platforms to report earnings following Facebook's data privacy scandal that broke in mid-March. Along with Facebook, the search engine is likely to face some impact on its business as lawmakers look to regulate the use of data and privacy protection. The tech giant also faces challenges with cost in recent quarters as it ramps up expensive new projects in cloud computing and hardware at its core Google unit.
A rising tide of plastic is ringing alarm bells in Hong Kong. Activist group Greenpeace warned this week that disposable items like water bottles and straws are breaking down into tiny fragments and making their way into the city's seafood.
These toxins have proven to potentially cause cancer to us, and particularly to pregnant women and growing child.
This is the gray mullet. It's one of the most popular fishes in city's restaurants and markets. However, Greenpeace says researchers found around 60% were found with large amounts of plastic in their gut. And the problem extends to dozens of other species, from lobsters to herring. Activists are pointing the finger at Hong Kong's food culture, which is fueling a rising tide of disposable plastics like straws, bags, and cutlery. One green group estimates the city throws away the equivalent of 5 million water bottles every day. Greenpeace says it's time for the government to take action. It's calling on authorities to clamp down on the types of plastic that are ending up in the food chain and risking the health of its citizens.
You're up to date. Check back later as stories develop.